Good morning, everyone. GM. Welcome to another episode of FOMO HOUR. Today is Friday, May 2nd, 2025. Folks, today is off to a fast start. Bitcoin at 97K. Stocks are booming, potentially about to hit a 20-year streak. And the question is, can this keep going? Or are we in a major bull trap? We're going to break it down on today's show. I'm getting a bit of feedback. So maybe is it your phone?
I'm trying to mute it.
Just
I don't know what's
volume
working.
all the way down.
I did. It won't let me. There we go.
All right.
Oh, since I'm a speaker, it won't let me. I'll just chuck it to the side.
Yeah, just maybe put it to the side. But
How's that?
That's better. Thank you very much, folks. We gave it away. Our special guest. It's Friday. We've got Sergito joining us. Serge, how you doing?
Good, man. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to come on Rug Radio, and obviously personal friends of all the whole team. So just happy to chat with some homies.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on. I think Mando is going to be joining us in just a couple minutes here, folks. We've got Logan on with us last day in Peru. Logie, GM, how you feeling?
Hey, good morning. I'm feeling a little bittersweet here. Final day here in Peru. Leave tomorrow night. So great trip, great time. Highly recommended for folks who have not yet ventured down here or maybe east-west, wherever you need to come from to get here. But excited to talk about it, the show, the markets, whatever. I'm excited.
We're going to miss your yellow background. That is.
I know. So this Airbnb treated me really well. Cold showers, but otherwise treated me really well.
Are you in Lima?
What was that? I'm sorry?
Are you in Lima?
No, I'm in Trujillo.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sergito, where are you talking to us live from this morning?
I'm in New York, but I used to go to Peru once a month for 4 or 5 years when I started my career in the markets. I used to cover Peru, so very special place in my heart.
Oh, very nice. Well, Logan, we're happy that you're coming back, but happy you had a good time as well. Folks, what are we talking about on today's show? We're going to start with the market report. It looks like we've got some good jobs numbers. China coming to the table on trade talks. Stocks on potentially the biggest rally since 2004, which is a bit confusing given everyone doom posting for weeks now. So we got to talk about that. We're going to talk about crypto outlook here. Mr. Sergito's perspective. We got Michael Saylor announcing another $21 billion in equity offerings to buy more Bitcoin. Tether reported earnings, $1 billion, very good, but down about 75% year over year. North Carolina is close to passing their own strategic Bitcoin reserve. Playtron in the SWE ecosystem, they're launching a new gaming stablecoin. That was an interesting one. We've got Visa and MasterCard both working on projects to give AI agents access to credit cards. That feels kind of big. We're going to break down the Boop.fun launch that was all over the timeline yesterday. And then the last part of the show, we will talk to Sergito about MiBits, the NFT comeback, and a lot more. Plus, double Yeet spins today. So you're going to want to stick around for the end of the show for that. Before we dive in, quick shout out to our partner, Wallet Connect. Wallet Connect is the connectivity network shaping the future of on-chain UX. If you've connected to a Web3 app, you've seen Wallet Connect. That blue logo, it's everywhere. An icon of trust in crypto, as recognizable as Visa at the checkout. If you want to learn more, follow at Wallet Connect on X and Telegram to stay ahead of what's next. All right, we love our partners as always. Sims, if you want to give me my intro music, I'll do a bit of a market report.
For daily NFT and crypto analysis. Tyler D on FOMO HOUR cause the kid can't miss.
Ready to bash some bears. Yeah, it's an interesting one out there this morning here, folks. I feel like crypto's been kind of quietly grinding up / somewhat chopping. It feels like these past few days. So Bitcoin, 96,900, up about 1%, up just 2% on the week, though it feels a little bit more than that, I guess. I don't recall us being at 95K last Friday. ETH up 3% on the week. Only up, it's basically even on the day. Solana slightly in red on the day. A few alt movers, nothing really crazy. EOS, IMX, Kaya, Virtuals kind of leading the charge, up 6 to 9%. Nothing crazy. I think from a macro perspective, a few things going on. Bloomberg tweeting here this morning. It looks like the jobs report came in Payrolls beat expectations decently. Unemployment stayed the same. We had Trump continuing to call for rate cuts, saying that inflation is very low and that the Fed needs to cut those rates. Some news out of NVIDIA. They're tweaking some AI chips to be sold to China. It does seem like China coming to the table. Trade talks have reported. I think China said this last night that the U.S. had reached out for trade deals. You could position that as the U.S. giving in, but I think end of the day, most people are just happy to see some progress on that front. Markets do seem to have liked that. So we've got stocks up about 1% here today. Dow jumping up 400. And then again, on pace for the longest winning streak in 20 years, which is made more interesting because Trump just came out and said when the recession numbers came out or the Q1 GDP came out that this wasn't his market, it was Biden's market. So Biden's going to have to get credit for this 20-day rally, this 20-year rally, I guess. The 10-year is up today. Wow, I didn't see this. So it's back to 4.3. So it's going the wrong way. I did see the odds of rate cuts have fallen a bit. I saw that we had this pulled up just a couple of days ago on the show. I think the odds of 4 cuts in 2025 were up to about 41% on the CME board, back down to 35% here. So just about 50% chance of 4 to 5 cuts here, 35% chance of 3 for the rest of this year. Back on the crypto board, ETFs were strong again yesterday, 420 million in net inflows. IBIT has just been leading the charge consistently, just massive green numbers every day. So capital is flowing in through the IBIT Bitcoin ETF. Ethereum even cashing a bid. Nice little week. Those ETFs nicely green here this week as well. That's a quick summary. We'll go into some of the more specific headlines here in a little bit, but Sergio, I'll toss it to you. I'm kind of I want to just chat casual Friday, chat like macro and market outlook. And I'll maybe preface this by saying I've been trying to absorb a lot of information. I don't have a background in macro equities trading or markets trading really. So I like to absorb what a lot of smart people around me are saying. And I feel like a lot of smart people for the last month, or at least since Liberation Day, had talked about how this would be a disaster for markets. A lot of smart people saying their base case was recession with chances of stagflation and depression on the table, which is hard for me to reconcile now that we're seeing this massive rally in stocks. So I'm curious, just from your perspective, on what is happening. Like, is this a bull trap? Should we be more worried? Like, why are stocks outperforming in such uncertain times?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to just forget that the market's not the economy. Obviously, something for the narrative is like the market's doing well, the economy must be doing really well. Markets trade on expectations, as we all know. And what's happened over the last couple of weeks is, while there's still some commentary out there from the administration that they're going to stay strong and F China and all that stuff, the reality is we've seen them move closer back to where things were. And so if you were around the markets back in the first Trump administration, the whole trade deal thing, we already had it happening. They had a trade deal with China back then. It was called the Phase 1 Trade 1 deal. It's purely cosmetic. Same thing with the NAFTA renegotiation that he termed USMCA. So I think once, the market priced in the fact that, okay, yeah, this might be different. Like the tariffs are like 145% with China, with everybody else. Like if they had not changed course, we would be much lower. But the fact that they immediately started changing their tune and coming back more towards kind of like the table where, putting out those fake headlines that we're talking to China, and China's like, no, we're not. No, we're not. I think that puts, unfortunately, I mean, we're cheering for the US here, don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But if you look at it from a non-political perspective and just from a pure macro perspective, the reality is that the US is against the wall with China. And so they're either going to have to, agree to some sort of deal, which just removes a lot of the uncertainty. And that's why we're like so much higher from where we were a month ago. But also, the Fed is there, right? The fact that the Fed didn't do anything when we were down 20% over 2 weeks, I think is just a good way to save those bullets for when they're necessary. And you start seeing in crypto Twitter this week a lot of talk about like shipping lanes and the ports being empty, how the tariffs just started to hit the real economy this week. And I think what's going to be important now that we had a rebound with the change of expectations is, okay, so what happens next? Obviously, first quarter GDP is backward looking. Today's employment number is backward looking. And I think a lot of people miss the point that it's just a mathematical model that usually gets revised as we go through time. If you look at, employment numbers for the last 8 years, every single month, there's been a significant revision when you look back. Now, when the market is very, very quiet, people are just super focused on employment, and thus it becomes kind of like, it's like the meme coins, or like, oh, Elon tweeted it, and so the thing moons. Like, it doesn't change fundamentally anything. It's just something that people like to gamble around. And so employment was better than expected. The expectations are very low. I'm sorry, my dogs are being a little bit naughty right now. But the expectations were low, right? If you think about, your average monthly gain for like a healthy job economy, around 220,000 jobs per month. So even though we beat expectations, 133,000 is just not that. 177,000 is still not to that level that you would expect from a healthy economy. Unemployment rate kind of sticky above 4%, which is still pretty good. It's not, recessionary, but we're just at a turning point here, I think, where really have to be looking at what's outperforming, what's driving the market. A lot of stuff that's driving the market right now, tech companies, are companies that are defensive in nature, especially in the world of tariffs, where there are software companies that don't really have that need for capital goods to come in from China. And so you have a lot of money invested in the market that has to be parked somewhere. I think sometimes from the crypto perspective, we're all in, you're in Bitcoin or you're in Ethereum, or you're in Solana or you're in Ethereum, or you're in NFTs or you're in shitcoins. But there's hundreds of thousands of asset managers out there that need to be in US equities, right? And they need to be 85% invested in US equities. So what do you do, right? So you sell the stuff that might have an impact from, some of the soft data that we're seeing, and again, look ahead, where the economy will slow down. Maybe financials, real estate, you sell that, and then you hide in stuff like Microsoft that just printed a great number that, again, it's not really importing things from China, that has the AI kind of tailwind. And of course, them being such an oversized component of the index, then you get this kind of stuff where stocks are really good. And I don't think it's a bull trap. It's just more consequence of the way all these indices are put together. And it can be a mirage. I think, it's good, but it's just time to be a little bit more alert as to what's really happening under the surface.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. So I had this gut read with no data backing it up that I just felt like fund managers, wealth advisors, they want to put capital into the markets. I feel like no one wants to be in cash. It's not a sexy thing to do. It's not what they're being paid to do. And I feel like every time we got any glimpse of positive news, everyone we were seeing that pump, right? It just felt like to me that money was pouring in. So kind of hearing that from you does confirm that idea for me. So I guess, what is your, what's your outlook over the next couple quarters?
On one side, I want to be optimistic that, if things really go south quickly in the economy, there's going to be some sort of backstop stimulus or something like that. Or again, this is a self-inflicted one, right? This whole tariff thing. Liberation Day was a mistake. And so you can take that away with one tweet. And that should see the kind of reaction that we've seen so far. Having said that, right, if you continue to see this kind of misunderstanding of reality with the impact of tariffs, how they are attacks on the lower and middle income classes. If you're going to use that as an excuse to cut taxes on the wealthy, then definitely I think you're going to see potentially. So for example, I was arguing with some friends earlier today on a group text. They're like, oh man, the stocks are up, first 10-day winning streak in 20 years. I'm like, yeah, we went from 6 to 8 when we could have been at 12. So for me, it's we could have been much higher already if they had just put in the pro-growth policies that were promised in the election. and not messed around with like trying to reset the global trade order all in one go. Unfortunately, we're not there yet. And so I think it's important to just kind of like keep in mind what could happen if those Chinese tariffs really start hitting. We'll talk about MiBits, we're making toys for MiBits. And like every single day we get emails from like the Toy Association saying like, hey, these tariffs are literally going to take out half the industry. So what happens then, right? If we've pulled back a little bit because like we don't want to spend $500 on a thing that we can sell for $400 because of tariffs. So then we're not putting in orders with the toy, manufacturers. And even though they might be in China, like the shipping companies, probably like FedEx or UPS, those are American. The retailers are obviously here. The employees of the retailers, obviously American. So that chain does take a little bit of time to play out. So I think it's just time to be really vigilant and really understand that, markets go up on a staircase, but down an elevator. And that's what we see, right? Like as an escalator up, elevator down, where like they chop, and then just like we saw Liberation Day, boom. If nothing's really changed and it was just something like, like announcements like that are so ridiculous, they're probably not taken back, then great buying opportunities. But if things are going to change materially, where they're like, you know what, screw this, or like a bomb goes off somewhere, then that's a different conversation.
Yeah. I think what's been interesting to me is a little bit about how the narrative has changed, right? It's like when this first started, there was a bit of this picture that you're going to be in for some near-term pain while we correct some serious issues in the U.S. economy and government spending and the debt. And it feels like we're kind of walking some of that back. And like, of course, it's nice to see the markets go back up. And I think we have made some progress on some trade deals on paper. I think you could argue the opposite side, that the global relations have perhaps worn more than the gain we're getting. That's a longer conversation, but it does feel like it's changed a little bit. And I guess where I'm going with this, I'm curious for your perspective. I mean, I've seen you be critical, and that's great. How would you rate Trump's first 100 days overall, and then part two specifically for crypto, and then we'll get into the crypto part of this conversation.
I think overall, probably one of the worst first 100 days that we've had. I mean, the market's telling you that, right? Like we've had the worst start for an administration in decades or history, I don't even know. So the market being the largest voting weighting machine is just telling you that. It's not me being political, it's just the market telling you that. For crypto, again, right, we thought it was going to be a super pro-crypto administration. Like Bitcoin should be at 150K. We're getting excited about potentially going back to 100K, which we hit over Basel. I remember I was in Miami with my friends, and when it hit, we were like all super excited. So the fact that, we're trying to inch back to 100K when we're already there, it doesn't feel like good to me. Now, that's from the market price perspective. Obviously, the regulation change, obviously, releasing some of those prisoners that were, crimes involving crypto that might not have been crimes is super positive. And so from that sense, I think from the regulatory perspective, really, really good. Personally, don't think that's the executive. That's more the people that have been, in Congress, and so like pushing from the inside. Obviously, places like Stand with Crypto really doing a good job at flexing their muscles. I think it's worrisome that it's almost pay to play now with World Liberty Financial. Like you see an announcement of somebody investing in World Liberty Financial, and they either get a pardon or they get something taken away. There was just some news yesterday about I think it was Abu Dhabi, a $2 billion investment into Trump crypto, and then the next day the U.S. is taking restrictions off from chips being sold over there. And you're like, come on, man. Because what's happening is in 4 years, if the Democrats come back in, crypto is going to be public enemy number one again. And so that's a concern. We don't have to go that way to be pro crypto. But I'll just let the market speak for itself. I think, for the economy, bad. For crypto, not as good as expected.
Interesting that you're saying not as good as expected. Because I gave my ratings the other day, and I think I gave them an A, just because of the regulations. Well, okay, an asterisk A, putting the meme coin launch aside.
A- I will give.
Okay, so I think that's fair, and I do agree with you that some of his personal moves, the meme coin with World Liberty Fi, now potentially with True Social doing its own token, has muddied it quite a bit. And I think one of the biggest risks out there is a political shift and the crypto becoming enemy number one again.
Yeah.
Driven because of some of his personal actions and a view as crypto equals Trump and a crackdown.
I mean, we saw with Tesla, right? Like Tesla went from being the darling on the left because of, environmental concerns and electric vehicles to now people are doing stupid shit to cars. Like it's insane, but that's the way humans are. And so that's, A for the regulation, minus for the stuff around it. And again, I think because of the economy, we should be much higher on prices, both for stocks and crypto. And so, we can blame Biden all we want, but that's just not the way the world works.
We'll see if Biden gets credit for this 20-day rally, if it closes here today. Well, now that we pivoted to crypto, Sergio, I'm curious, taking a look at the board now, you kind of outlined your macro thoughts. Like what is jumping out to you? Like, are you making?
Yeah, I saw Mando just join us. We were on Recvision a couple of weeks ago, and I think one of the recurring themes whenever I get tapped into to sit in for Ovi when he's traveling is that Bitcoin is completely decoupled from the rest of the crypto market from the flow perspective, right? You're just talking about the Bitcoin ETFs. Not only that, but then you have Saylor sitting there on the bid every so often. Whereas the rest of the crypto market, it more closely resembles what we're seeing kind of like with tech stocks and some of the more frontier tech things. What stands out is just, listen, I love ETH. I think we all do. Even if people say they don't anymore, I think we all came through the NFT ecosystem. It holds a special place in our heart. It's great that we have new leadership at the foundation and they're like more focused on UX, scaling the L1 and just the blob fee structure. But it is painful to see it, at the same prices where it was back when we were FOMOing into NFTs 4 years ago. So I think it's a good opportunity here. But I've been saying that for a while. Obviously, it's been completely wrong. And so, I've stopped saying it publicly, not to embarrass myself further. But the rest of the market, I think, is just going to be challenged. There's not a lot of demand from new capital that would look beyond, your Bitcoin, maybe like your ETH and your Solana to really support the level of supply that we're seeing across the board, right? Like the other day, there was $69 million worth of investments announced into new L1s. Like, give me a break. Nobody uses anything. I mean, even ETH, like hardly ever anybody uses it anymore. Like gas, like 0.1. So the fact that, we all know liquidity for those funds, for those investments will come from new token launches. It's just it's a bit tragic because all of that is just going to take away liquidity from the market itself, right? It's going to go into the wrong places. And so, for certain investors that get to buy tokens at a fraction of a penny, wait a year and dump it at 5 cents. Of course, they're going to keep on doing that. But for the average user that's coming in and saying, hey, I use this testnet or I use this like new chain, I like it a lot, it's fast, it gave me points, I'm going to buy some more of the tokens, and then it goes from 5 cents back to 1 cent, right? We're going to keep on losing potential, adopters and users. And so I think it's a very negative flywheel that I hope it stops one day, but I don't see it stopping. So what's my outlook? I think, Bitcoin continues to outperform everything. I think depending on how you calculate BTC dominance, it will just continue to remain very elevated, especially as gold. Obviously it's come off, but it's historic highs. So that narrative of Bitcoin being digital gold, I think, plays really well. And two, just ease of access, right? Like anybody can buy Bitcoin through the ETFs. A whole new, like you can't really put Ether or Solana in retirement accounts. You can't put Bitcoin. So that opens up a lot of new different portfolios that the asset can go into. Obviously, we're here and talk about other strategic reserves across the world from countries and so on, and that's all Bitcoin. So that with the couple, I think you'll bring a lot of frustration to people that expect that alt cycle to come one day, rolling down from Bitcoin into the rest of the stuff. Unless we get some like massive stimulus package, I don't see that happening. We'll see pockets of excitement, like we're seeing with Sui. I think they're doing things right. Obviously, Solana, is playing the game really well. Setting up a lobbying effort in DC, hiring the ex-head of the Blockchain Association to push for that. They're pushing hard into New York with their new office. So like those kinds of plays, yes. But like the overall market, I think, unless we get stimulus, is just going to be a continuous, just kind of like meltdown and kind of very similar to what we saw with NFTs 21, right? Like it was like everything was pumping and then only 3 things were pumping. And then it was like at the very end, it was like apes, other side, an ape chain. And then everything just melted. And that's my expectation for like the overall crypto spot market.
Interesting. And that a little gloomy, but I think fair.
Just buy Bitcoin, Ether, and Solana and call it a day.
Yeah.
If you want to gamble, there's a lot of fun stuff to gamble on, but they're not investments.
Fair.
I think that's the difference, right? If we're thinking long term is investment, change the world kind of thing, it will be the top 3 or 4, networks. If you want to have fun, play a meme, that's different, right? That's like, if you want to be a better quarterback and you're a high school senior, you're watching a lot of tape. You're not watching ESPN for like the line on the games this weekend. I think that's the difference, right? You either want to be a good investor, long-term technologist, or you want to be a good short-term trader, play the narratives, understand like meme cycles and all that stuff. And those are 2 very, very different fields. Same thing happens in traditional finance. You have the Warren Buffetts of the world, right? Like there's a very stupid headline going around like, oh, Warren Buffett owns 5% of all treasuries. And it's idiotic. Like if you do not know Warren Buffett's business model, of course you're like, oh my God. You think it's like that he owns the treasuries. No, he owns one of the largest insurance groups in the world, and they have to stash the cash somewhere, and they own treasuries, period. Like that's where it's risk-free rate. But his business over the last 50 years has been building like undervalued companies with those insurance funds and just leveraging that over and over again, right? Versus somebody like, the guys that run, Bremen Howard and Millennium and all those hedge funds that are really more looking for, a different kind of play. They use leverage, derivatives, and so on. And there's room for everybody, is my point.
Yeah.
And so market-wise, just buy the big guys. If you're thinking long-term, you want to sleep at night, you have a 9 to 5, you don't want to be worried about, sitting on pump fund.
Or boot fund, which we'll get to here.
Or the new one, yeah.
Great advice. The benefit to the listeners of this show is on a daily basis, they get Mando's macro outlook. And then they get to go venture down the risk curve with me and all the.
Did you make a coin yesterday, Tyler?
Not yet, but it's on my to-do list for today. I do think I am going to launch one.
Yeah, why not?
I think the upside is just too strong. It'll come with all the disclaimers. I'm not going to run it like a project. Don't expect, me to run this like Mando ran Epic. It's going to be a collectible NFA. DYOR.
Yeah, it's so fucking hilarious. Like, I actually have tried to do this for the last year. Now everyone's just launched one and just rugged it. Like literally insta rug from like the top 300 KOLs in the space. Yeah, ridiculous.
Are you going to do another one?
No.
To get your.
I'm done.
Yeah, very fair. We'll see. I haven't clicked the launch button just yet, but I'm in that 400,000 token tier. And of course, I don't expect that Boop token to be quite as high in 20 to 30 days as it is now, but it's a decent little airdrop. So enough to consider the decision here. It's traded at 350 million still, 35 cents. I'll be honest. When it was straight down yesterday and the sentiment all over the timeline was very negative, I thought it was already over. But it seems like they flipped the script overnight. I think they got the platform back working, and then Dingling rolled in with 1,000 SOL and said, I'm going to buy some of these tokens. That was enough to help shift things. And then their incentives are good. Like this does not mean that good meme coins are going to come out of this ecosystem, but the incentives are there. So every day, 1 million tokens are given out to creators and holders of tokens that graduate. That's
that a good thing?
It
feels like it's rare all over again. It's like cool tokenomics that will fizzle out in 2-3 months, right?
Yeah.
Remember the
Which
look
is a long
scratch up?
time. Which is a long time.
Well, free
Yeah.
money's free money, though, if you can get it.
Of course.
So I think they are. I think they're going to have some success. Logan, I'm curious for your thoughts on the launch. So like, we've been talking about this a little bit. Incentivizing KOLs to launch coins that they don't want, like an action that they don't want to take, and they're just going to say, "Put do not buy" in the tagline of the coin, or even name it "do not buy." Like,
Yeah.
what's the point of that?
I don't know. I've grappled with it, and from initially upon launch, I went back and forth just a little bit, but ultimately, I welcome the potential innovation, and I definitely like champion people trying to do new things. I'm all for that, and I think it's great that they incentivize people to take the actions that they want them to take. Right? They wanted people to launch tokens. They want people to buy tokens, so they're incentivizing them to do so. That makes a lot of sense to me. What makes less sense to me is just the fact that the people themselves don't want to do so, and it became so loud on the timeline that nobody wanted to do so, and you created like this instant negative sentiment, as you mentioned, that permeated my timeline. I would imagine almost everybody's timeline. I did not see many positive takes yesterday. Of course, getting the platform up and running is a great first start to combat that. But I haven't been on too much this morning just yet. Like, have you noticed a sentiment shift this morning, Tyler, or not?
I think so.
Yeah.
So, the platform started working. I think more people launched tokens, and then like they're starting to have some winners. So like this Bupa token is now the top performer. It's at 7.5 million market cap. I think that's higher than any of Radium's Launch Lab tokens went. So they've already outperformed Radium's Launch Lab.
Yeah. Well, money talks. So yeah, if people are making money, I would imagine sentiment shifts just a little bit, and people are feeling a little bit better about things. But I think I'm with Mando at this point. I mean, the sustainability, I don't know. I would like to see something work. Of course, I'm not rooting against Boop.fun. I'm just leery of and wary of something like this having happened many times in the past and not having succeeded. So
yeah, I think being wary is the correct emotion / reaction. We'll see. I think they'll continue to gain traction through this weekend. One item of note, with all the focus on Boop yesterday, and perhaps that was their goal. Perhaps getting the KOLs to do all this was just a massive attention event, and they got it. They nailed the attention event. I think that's undeniable. I think some of the hotter new coins of the day were still launched on Pump Fund. So I think there's still going to be a little bit of this is forced for farming / airdrops versus like more true or organic memes are going to be perhaps elsewhere. So we will see. Mando, I know you joined us late. We're going to get to a conversation with Sergito about MiBits and NFTs here in a few minutes, but I'm curious, any big macro topics that jumped out to you from the day? We had the Saylor news.
Yeah, the Saylor news I think is the big one. Like the fact that he said it's going to be debt as well.
So is it debt or is it not? Because like that's what's confusing to me. Have you had a chance to dig in?
I just read what he wrote, which was 42 billion of equity, 42 billion of fixed income, right?
So
I would have assumed that. I mean, Saylor is from a financial background. Like I would assume he means 82 billion. Those are not the two. They are not the two same things. Even if you were to say it like that for convert, it wouldn't make sense. So I don't know, but if it's fixed income, that's debt, and that would worry me. It says, as it says in October, they said they plan to raise 42, and he's saying he's doubling it. So he is saying it's. So again, if your friend said, "I'm going to raise $42 billion of debt to buy Bitcoin," would you tell him that's a good idea or not?
He still has, I was just writing this up the other day. He still has like 20 billion worth of the strike or STRK stuff in allowance and issuance as well. So there's ammo there.
Right. But like there's ammo. He fired a shelf. It's like if I fired a shelf, I want to raise $21 billion. He just said that, look, we may do this. So it's not ammo unless the market actually wants to buy that security from him, right?
Right.
So yeah, he has some ammo on the shelf that he's filed for, but who knows? Like, and I continue to think that if he wants to raise $82 billion to buy Bitcoin, I think he's going to need to raise debt. I don't think equity holders are going to give him $82 billion to buy Bitcoin.
And that's where this gets riskier.
Yeah, I continue to think that adds an element of liquidation risk to what he's going to do. Like, if I was a MicroStrategy equity holder, I would just tell him to stop. I've said this so many times. He's got enough. The benefit for you of him continuing to do this, I think, is very limited. It's very marginal at this stage. And I think he just wants to buy as much Bitcoin as he can. It's like one man's maniacal dream to own as much Bitcoin. And if you want to buy $82 billion of Bitcoin, you know, there's a chance that, like, at some stage, if Bitcoin was to drop 50%, and he has fixed income securities with maturities around them, or covenants or whatever, like, this could get nasty. I mean, Sajito will know this very, very well. I believe he's a B-rated credit already. MicroStrategy, I think maybe B plus or B minus, but if he was to raise $42 billion of debt, this is going to be like triple C all over it, and triple C would be a high, you know, debt markets would assume that there's a good chance that he would get liquidated.
Is it like probably like a 14%, 16%?
Right. This is what I mean. It's like, this could get nasty if he wants to try and do that. So I like Saylor. I think he's played a blinder. I think he should stop.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very, very fair. And I'll continue just to point in on this. Like, when you read the article that he shares, so in the tweet, he says 42 million in fixed income, so debt. You're spot on. But for whatever reason, in their report, there is no mention of that. And then, like, in their summary, they only point to the equity offering, which is the safer piece of this. So maybe it's something he's going to keep up his sleeve. I think our best hope is that he's going to keep it up his sleeve as a potential option, but he doesn't execute it, I guess, and just continues to go the equity offering.
If he buys with equity, I don't care. Like, keep doing it. It's just an ETF. And it trades with a premium. If I was an equity holder, because it's trades at a premium right now, I might not be that happy about it because you're going to keep on diluting that premium. But if he buys it with debt, I think everyone should worry.
Yeah, very fair. Well, folks, we're going to get to our conversation with Sergito. The code for today for those Yeet spins is BOOP. Rafflebot code is BOOP. So we'll get to those probably here in about 10, 15 minutes. Well, Sergito, one of the reasons we wanted to come you on, the macro conversation was fantastic. So thanks for jumping in on that. I feel like there's been some big news in the MiBits streets. Before we get into the breaking news, though, this is our first chance that we've had to really talk, at least on air, since the takeover, since the acquisition.
Oh man, 78 days ago on Valentine's Day.
Wow, we're going to be grading your first 100 days here soon.
Oh God, I hope they're a little bit better than what we've seen somewhere else.
I'm sure you've said this a handful of times, but for some of our listeners who haven't heard it, so why'd you want to take over MiBits?
Two reasons. First of all, I asked everybody who's followed me and mocked me for liking MiBits over every other collection, and you're probably right investment-wise over the last 4 years. You were definitely right market-wise. I love the MiBits. I think they are an incredible just body of artwork from the premier artists, the legendary Larva Labs, who kind of created this whole category, not once, just with punks, inspiring the ERC 721 standard. Obviously, almost every PFP collection is a derivative of punk traits. But they did it again with Autoglyphs a few years later, which spawned the tokenized generative art movement. And obviously, Snow, for a big early punk claimer, always credits Larva Labs with inspiration for art blocks and everything that's come after that. So I think they did it again in 21 with MiBits. These are digital sculptures. They, unlike every other collection from that year, that were just layers on like a Python script. The MiBits are created from voxels, where the algorithm really had to work to put all the traits together. And they include a lot of that technology and concepts that developed for punks and glyphs into this. So for example, there on screen, you have a couple of MiBits wearing camel print pants. Now they use a generative algorithm to create the camel print so that no two MiBits are wearing the exact same print when they're wearing camel. So every single camel, trait is unique. You have stuff like, the hoodie ups that you have there on screen. One just traded this morning. I think it was that one. Obviously, a nod to hoodie punks. And it's just, 20,000 little characters running around the metaverse. Their bet was that we will live in a digital future, much more immersive, spaces online. Obviously, that has not really materialized. I do think we're going to get there. And so, you look at Larva Labs' body of work, it's punks as kind of like their paintings, glyphs as their computer art, and then MiBits as their digital sculptures. And punks are in museums. Obviously, the Pompidou, the ICA, the Toledo Museum just announced a new exposition coming up here in the next month or two with punks. Glyphs are at the Whitney. Glyphs are in other museums as well. And then I would expect that, given that legacy and just to show the completeness of the body of work of Larva Labs themselves, MiBits belong in that conversation. So one, I think they're incredibly cute. They're good looking. I love the human body. Just, we're by nature very much in love with humanity. You look at art history throughout, our whole existence, the majority of the subjects of the piece of art are human bodies, human faces, and so on, right? From cavemen all the way to where we are today with like AI bots and the like. So that was kind of like the why I love MiBits. The reason why I decided to go ahead with the transaction and putting, the company together is just, I think NFT projects, communities are incredible distribution networks. They're next generation distribution networks. We saw it with, apes and penguins and so many of the others, where you have this global fan base of people that are, tech forward, that are really looking to just kind of integrate this new technology into their lifestyle. I mean, we're all here on screen because of NFTs pretty much. I mean, Logan, I don't know your background, but I'm assuming it's around right there. Obviously, Mando and I were both sitting on trading desks at Barclays, and we're now here because of NFTs. And Tyler, you're also here because of NFTs. And so I think that there's an incredible opportunity to really take this, properties and bootstrap them to create incredible distribution networks, companies. And I'm not talking about selling hoodies and hats and so on, but really being able to innovate with like new types of financial products and so on. And so for me, it was a perfect marriage between a community, a project that I adore, that I think has really high intrinsic value because of the artists and the provenance, but also, 20,000 tokens out there with an engaged, fan base. We have 6,400 wallets that hold them. And some of the largest names in the space have a ton of MiBits. Snowfro being the largest MiBit collector that has one of every single type of MiBits. Only collection in the world. So a lot of people don't know that, but it's there. And I think people that understand Larva kind of have that same mentality of just put the MiBits away and one day we'll get there. And so it was that combo, and then the opportunity came about too, right? Like there's a lot of things that we want to do, but sometimes it's not possible. But the opportunity came about in December, and so I jumped on it.
Well, we're happy that you jumped on it. And people may not know this. I have a long storied history with MiBits myself. I had quite the collection back in 2021. Had a nice hoodies, suits, pig. No elephants or aliens. The collection has dwindled since then, but I'll be making my triumphant return. Don't worry. Next question, Sergito. So you bought or you acquired the project. What's the first 90-day plan? Like, what are you focused on out of the gate?
Yeah, so we published our 4-pillar plan. Very innovative name. It's just 4 things that the company. It's 4 of us in the company. It's myself. It's Bailey, who's our creative director. Token Juggler, who's our head of tech, and then Bojangle Guy, who's our head of community and ops. All very much entrenched community members since day one, and we've just been obsessed with MiBits. So we're just doing right now what we hoped MiBits would have done in the past, and no shame to Yuga, who's one of our partners that are on the cap table of the MiBit company. I think they had very ambitious plans for a lot of the things they wanted to do in 22, and the market turned on them. And so obviously you're a company, you have to survive. The bandwidth and resourcing had to be focused on their main properties, which is Bored Ape, other side, and supporting the ape chain. But for us, it's just stuff like I said, 4 pillars. The first one's art and provenance, really bringing to the surface that incredible background that MiBits have. We're doing a birthday celebration with Fellowship and Noper. It's the 4th anniversary of MiBits tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. We're going to continue to just push on supporting artists with the collection. Again, incredible distribution network. How do we use that to help emerging artists reach new collectors? The second thing is fund utility, looking at what projects did really well and maybe not so well over the last 4 years, taking the best of that and using it to make holding a MiBit just a fun experience. Maybe you're in it for the art, but you also want to have fun. You want to have online activations. You want to have physical activations. You want to have cool merch. So we did an integration with Player Zero, which will launch on May 5th. That's Monday, where all 20,000 MiBits will be integrated to all the Player Zero games. So for the first time ever, you'll, that kind of like dream that we all had in 21 of buying an NFT and being able to use it in a game, that's happening with MiBits and Player Zero on Monday. So you connect your wallet and you have your MiBit available to be played. They have like 4 or 5 games right now, and there's a lot more games coming down the pipeline. So it's really, really cool that we're able to deliver that as part of our fun utility pillar here within the first 100 days. The next one is tech innovation. Obviously, crypto, NFTs, blockchain, it's all frontier tech. We're the bleeding edge of it, and we want to continue pushing. It's also a nod to the provenance of Larva Labs. Obviously, Matt and John, even before NFTs, right? They were like Google and Android developers. They're always pushing the envelope with what could be done with technology. And so we want MiBits to be a conduit for that. So we announced a really cool partnership with Think Agents. They're going to be using MiBits as like the body of your AI agent. We provided 10 MiBits that can be used, the models, the MiBits are ours, that can be used for people to talk to their agent. And if you have a MiBit, connect your wallet, and then you can interact directly with it, which I think it's really, really cool. And we have a couple of other things coming on the AI front. And then lastly, the last pillar is community first. As I mentioned before, the 4 of us, big members of the community, we want to be there. We want to help, build together, win together, supporting people that want to build around MiBits, whether it's artists, whether that's like creators. We have Wendell, who's a punk as well, created this incredible app called Meepcam. So it's meep.cam. It's a progressive web app. You can just access it on your phone, and you can make GIFs with your MiBit. You can make videos with your MiBit. My nieces, they have a MiBit each. They love playing with it. They always want to get on the iPad and play with their MiBit. And so stuff like that, just really, building for the community, because that's what we're here for.
Well, I like the sounds of the plan, and you clearly have been busy and fast to work. So I've loved seeing all these updates start to come out. Maybe just a minute or two left here, because I know we got to get to our Yeet spins before we wrap things up. But how are you feeling about the broader NFT market? It's seen some signs of life, but then there's also been has it been token driven? So kind of how are you feeling about the broader market here?
I'm feeling good. I think obviously we had big art sales recently. I think people try to pretend that technology is going to strip away human nature, when in reality, what technology does is actually enhances human nature, right? So greed, fear, power loss, all of that is enhanced by technology. So technology is a great democratizer, but doesn't change away who we are. And so, yeah, we'll continue to see, top artists continue to have top sales, top projects continue to evolve, and then, some of the tails should really start to dwindle. But I think it's a good time to build for NFTs, especially with this new renewed interest from the Ethereum Foundation to make the chain more UX friendly, more consumer friendly. It's no secret, as much as I love a couple of the NFT communities that I am part of in Solana, they never really hit the prominence that NFT communities on ETH hit, even while Solana was, much higher last year. I'm a proud Mad Lad. I have 3 of them. I love them. I love that community, but they never were able to step outside that little bubble, whereas ETH projects and ETH artists have. So I think, again, cyclical, it's frontier tech, but as long as people continue to innovate and we have founders and leaders and collectors and community members who want to push the envelope forward, I think we'll be fine. And it just, as long as people don't also get over their skis, right? Don't spend $500,000 on a JPEG just because you think you can sell it for $750,000 in a month. We'll be fine. Be more like Mando. Buy them for $400 and sell them for $400 million 3 years later.
That's a better return right there. Final question. I'd love to talk about the Bitcoin punk spread on this show.
Bitcoin punk spread. I think
one right now, which is going to outperform for the rest of this year.
I think for the rest of the year, you're going to see punks outperform.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we just talk about how arts just started to heat up. Obviously, punks have been on a heater recently in Ether terms, but not really in dollar terms because of ETH performance. I think the long-term base price for punks is like $70,000, and we're just right about there. So I would expect punks to like triple from here to year end. There's only 10,000 of them, and all you need is somebody to come in like we happened in 21. Want to deploy a couple $1 million, which is nothing in the greater scheme of things. And the thesis of people make money in crypto and buy a punk continues to play out. I handle the admin for the punk community on Telegram. You bought a punk after having an incredible run with coins over the last year, and so those punks are being put away. And they're not going back to market. So yeah, there's a lot more convexity to punks than there is to Bitcoin. And I like them both, but I think punks outperform.
Oh, I like that. As someone who's been trying to tout the punk side of that ratio for a while. We're down about 20%, but still a lot of time on the clock.
Yep.
Quickly, look at this board. This is the thinnest to 50 I think that's been.
Yeah, I haven't been looking at the market too much lately, to be honest, because I've just been really busy with MiBits. But it used to be, I wake up every day and check I know Farokh and I, when we were started talking about punks back in the day, every single day I'll be checking the market. And it's more sort of like a discovery of oh, this is a really cool trade or a cool combination rather than the price. But yeah, it doesn't take long. They're great, collateral. I borrow against some of my punks, use that to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah,
so I have the double, kind of like bet there. And it's a great community, as you've seen.
Well, appreciate your insights on NFTs, MiBits, and macro. Of course, I guess just anything you want to leave our listeners with before we go to the Yeet spins? Anything they need to be looking out for?
Yeah, no, obviously we'd love to have people come and just look at what we're doing with MiBits. If it resonates, send me a DM. Happy to chat through the plans. I think we have not had a lot of the catalysts that other projects have had. So I think even from that perspective, even though I'm not advocating for a financial investment, I do think that there's a lot to like when it comes to MiBits. And now there's a fully dedicated team. We have one confirmation. There are investors, helping us push the space forward. So I'm really excited for it. So we'll welcome everybody just to take a look. They're not the MiBits from 21 anymore. This is MiBits 2.0.
MiBits 2.0. This is a great way to end it. Well, Sergio, it was great to catch up.
Thank you for having me.
Feel free to stick around. Feel free to drop.
I will.
Sims, if you're ready, let's. We've got double Yeet spins, folks. Double action since we didn't give away any yesterday. So a couple of lucky listeners are going to walk away with some cash here today. So whenever you're ready, let's spin it up. Oh, we still in the background. We'll get it back soon, folks. Who do we got? First winner, Deep Water. ENG rocking the pudgy with the egg on top. Deep Water. You won. You are our first winner here today. So go ahead and request. Come on up on stage. We will get you going. Here is our second winner. And it is Cao Lin Sam. Cao Lin Sam. Cao. CAOLINSAN. You have won. You are winner number 2, Cao Lin Sam. So we've got Deep Water and Cal, come on up, hit that request button. The clock is ticking, folks, or else we will do re-spins. All right, it looks like we have Deep Water up here. So they're up on stage now. I'm just waiting on Cal. While we wait, Deep Water looks like, we got them both. Go ahead and get Cal up here. Deep Water, you're our first winner. GM, how you feeling?
GM, what's going on, guys?
Glad to have you up here. And Cal, you're our second winner. If you're with us, GM, you won too.
GM Tyler.
Awesome. All right, we got them both up here. Deepwater, you're going to go first. Sims, do we have the game?
What do we want to do, boys?
Oh, Mando, you're on mute.
I said let's do coin race. It's fun.
Ooh, all right. Coin race.
So how do we want to do this? Do you want to choose 2 coins and we split it? 250 each?
So Deepwater's first. He'll banks $500, so we'll have him pick 2 coins. All right, so
Okay.
Deepwater, you can pick 2 coins. You can pick Bitcoin, ETH, Solana.
Are you ready?
Or Farokh coin.
So you'll be in the next race. Dogecoin and Farokh are the fifth ones. Then if your coin wins, you get the prize.
You need Bitcoin, Solana.
All right. Those are some. What won this game?
Not like this. Bitcoin wins.
Bitcoin won this one. All right. So you're in for the next one here. Bitcoin.
Place your bets.
All right. So 250 on Bitcoin, 250 on Solana.
Oh no.
All right. Here we go. Man, that's the back winner of this one.
3, 2, 1, go!
All right. What we got?
Altcoin can win this.
It's ETH. Oh, man, ETH.
Why me?
Oh.
Bitcoin
Oh,
wins.
Bitcoin went. Nice.
Well done.
Oh,
Nice job, Deepwater. So
Eat
you
it
won
already.
500. So
We have to have we need to choose quickly, don't we, on the next one as well?
yeah.
So,
we're-
Calsan, which two are you going to choose?
Dude, I have no clue what we're playing, so let's do the same as Morocco.
Okay. All right.
So,
I think we have to wait like 20 seconds.
Yeah, we'll get in on the next one. Are you watching the stream, Cal?
no, I'm not.
Okay.
And I've only played Mega Roulette on JIT, so I have no clue what we're doing.
Oh, okay. So basically, we're watching the 1 second charts of 5 different crypto tokens: Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, Dogecoin, and Fartcoin.
All
With
would have
different.
won that one. Okay, so Bitcoin and Sol.
Place your bets.
That's right. So you're gonna bank 500. You get 250 each on Bitcoin and Solana.
There we go. Yeah, seems it's got good in it now. That's definitely the way to do it.
All right, we're off.
3, 2, 1, go! Rub. Hey,
Oh, God.
Now, there's only 3 horses left.
Oh, hold on.
Oh!
Oh,
Dogecoin
Oh,
wins.
Dogecoin won, but don't worry, Cal, you're still walking away with $500.
Place your bets.
all right, that was fun. That was fun.
That was a good one. Well, we'll connect with you guys. We'll connect with you after the show to sort all this out. Well, folks, that's going to be it. Wrapping up our week of FOMO Hour. Farokh is back next week, folks. And if you didn't see, he interviewed CZ.
Yeah. Wow.
So we're gonna debrief with his interview from CZ. That is a top interview. So happy to catch up with Farokh next week. Wish Logie some safe travels home from Peru. Sergito, thank you so much for joining us. Great conversation. I want to thank all my co-hosts, thank our listeners, thank our partners, folks. We'll be back on Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Till then, go make it a great day.